CQ Parks on the Air, CQ Parks on the Air from Uniform Sierra 1418 in eastern Pennsylvania. This is Alpha Echo 3, November Echo calling CQ Parks on the Air and standing by.
Alpha Juliet 4, Victor Delta.
Alpha Juliet 4, Victor Delta 59 here into the park, QSL.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I got some feedback, which I really appreciate, on my very first video. So my very first video, which was titled my very first video, I explained that I have a lot of different hobbies and like to do different things. One of them being ham radio. And so one of the viewers of the channel said, show us ham radio. So I'm not an expert, but I'll tell you my journey of ham radio, and hope you can learn from that. So they call it ham radio. I think that, well, you got to remember, in the very early days of ham radio, this is at the turn of the century, the early 1920s, there was no voice, meaning it wasn't a microphone. It was all Morse code. So you had a keyer, you knew Morse code, or as we call continuous wave, CW, and that's how it started. You know, some people call it amateur radio because it's not like a professional radio announcer or radio person on the air, but most people call it ham radio. So in the old days, the radios were built by the operators, and you had a transmitter and a receiver. They were separate. They were not a transceiver together. You couldn't just go to a ham radio store and buy the rig. So it was a little bit different, you know. These guys knew electronics really well. Bought me for Christmas one year Zenith Transoceanic radio. It's an iconic shortwave radio. It's pretty cool. I'll try to find a picture of it and show it in this video so you can see what it was like. And that's when I fell in love with shortwave radio. The idea, and I'd lay in bed at night with a set of headphones on, because most of the listening that you're going to do is at night. Part of it is that the radio signals typically work better at night, and then part of it is you got to remember that we're on different time schedules. So when you're listening to stuff over in Europe, it's morning over there when it's night here. So that's part of it. And many of the stations, when you're on shortwave, they're transmitting and aiming that signal towards the United States. Obviously, I don't speak multiple languages, so I'm going to pick up English-speaking shortwave radio stations, and I did as a kid, and it was fascinating. I can remember listening to the voice of Havana, Cuba, and you know, it was all derogatory stuff about the United States, because at that time, this would have been in the mid to late 60s, we were, you know, in the Cold War, and Cuba was not our friend at that time, and so it was really interesting to, as a young kid, to hear a transmission from another country describing the conditions in the United States, how all the streets are lined with poverty and poor people. We do have poverty and homeless people, but the way they made it out, it was literally everywhere. And so it was just very interesting for me. From that, I did get into CB radio, which is a little bit similar to shortwave radio and ham radio, but it's quite a bit different. It's, as we refer to it, as 11 meter. It's an unlicensed portion of the band. I did it for a while. I actually had an amplifier that worked with the CB radio. Technically that's illegal, but a lot of people were doing it back then. They referred to that as skip. You could talk on your CB radio. CB radio, the maximum amount of power that you were able to put out was 5 watts, but you could buy amplifiers that would amplify it up to, a couple of 100 watts. So imagine going from 5 watts to 200 watts, and I had quite a good size ground plane antenna on the roof of my house, my parents' house, and it was fun. I had a CB radio in my first car when I was 16. Got my license. I had a car. I had one of those big 8-foot long whip antennas out the back. Worked pretty good. So it was kind of fun because there were some other kids that I was in school with in high school. They had CB radios. We could talk to each other, and we had a good time. Then I really got out of it. I did build a Heathkit. I'm sure many of you have heard that name, Heathkit. They were a company out of Michigan that made radios that came in a kit form. So you had all the parts, instruction booklet, you had a soldering iron, and you put this radio together. And for Christmas one year, I got a Heathkit CW, meaning Morse code only, no voice, transceiver. So it was a receiver and a transmitter in one that I had to build. It was a crystal controlled radio, meaning it did not have a knob of VFO, variable frequency oscillator, so you could turn it and change the frequency. You had to buy preset crystals. I built the whole thing, got it aligned, and never got my license and got on the air. I don't even know what happened to the radio. At that point, I went off to college, and life gets in the way and you do what you do. So I probably was more interested at that point of chasing girls and driving around in my car. And then, like I said, I went off to college, and that was the end of that. So fast forward to 2008, the requirements prior to 2008 were that you had to get your license. You had to know Morse code. You had to be able to send and receive Morse code. And for some people it's easy. It was not easy for me, I'm going to admit it. I did study it for quite a long time. It was a wall for me. I just couldn't do it. And because there were people that were, they weren't getting the membership into ham radio as they used to in the 1960s, the FCC decided to take away the requirement for Morse code, or CW, so you could actually get your license. So a ham radio license is in 3 levels. There's a technician level, and that level gives you a very limited area of bandwidth back then it was Morse code, but voice, and then you can use FM 2 meter, and it's a very limited, but that's the first license that you have to get. The second license is a general class, and once you pass that test, you can pretty much go on, all the bands. And then the last one is the amateur extra. That's the highest level. And the only reason that you'd want that is there are some frequencies that are only open to the amateur extra, and you can have what's called a vanity call sign. So my original call sign assigned to me by the FCC was KD8IJU, and once I actually did pass the test, and I'm an amateur extra. My new call sign is W8JCQ, so I just picked my initials. We use the phonetic alphabet when we speak on the radio typically, so it's easier to understand. So we'd say it as Whiskey 8 Juliet Charlie Quebec. So again, the phonetic spell, the wording of the alphabet just makes it easier to say. My son actually took his test to be a technician, and he passed it very quickly, really easy. He was only 11 years old, so that shows you how easy it was. Now, my son was a very good student. He never talked on the air, and he never got his general license. I think he did it just to make his dad happy. But yeah, he was real smart. It was just something fun for him and me to go down there on a Saturday and take the test. Typically, you take it at a community college. It's monitored by other ham radio operators. And again, it's not that hard. There's study guides that you can get that'll help you with that. So, and I will explain the band plan, the modes, and all that. CB radio person, that was 5 watts. But as a licensed ham radio operator, you can put out 1500 watts. Most all the radios, when you buy them, they're going to put out about 100 watts, maybe just under it, but for conversation's sake, let's say 100 watts. And then you would have to purchase an amplifier to get it up to that, as we call it, legal level of 1500. I've had a couple of amplifiers over the years. They tend to get a little expensive, so a nice amplifier, nowadays you're probably going to spend $800-900 for a tube amplifier, a solid state amplifier, automatically band switching and everything. They're probably $3,500. So I personally don't think you need one, but again, it's your own personal preference. So there are people that go on the ham radio that actually do what's called QRP, and they use 5 watts. They buy radios that are especially made for QRP, or just turn the power down on their radio, and they challenge themselves to see how far they can get just on 5 watts. I think the majority of people are probably doing a small amplifier, kicking the power up, or no amplifier at all. I don't do it with an amplifier, and if I just can't get, as they say, punch through the conditions without an amp, then that's how it is. At this point, I'm not going to do it. The thing that's going to make the most difference is the antenna. And there's so many different designs of antennas. There's vertical antennas, there's wire antennas, there's beam antennas, and you can get, an antenna for $100, and you can spend tens of thousands of dollars. You can put towers up with rotators on them, running cabling up. It gets quite expensive. I've never had anything like that. I've had multiple wire antennas. They're called dipoles. They really are just simple pieces of wire that are cut and tuned to an exact length that work on either multiple frequencies, or they're tuned for one frequency, but a lot of guys just use the ones that are made for multiple frequencies. They're considered compromise antennas. They don't work perfect on all of them, but they do work on most of the frequencies that we use. And you can hook them. We have a big garage pole barn, and I hooked it between the pole barn and the house, run the wire into the house, use coax or coaxial cable, and run it inside the house and hook it up to the back of the radio. I've always had what's called lightning protection, because you want to make sure that if there's a lightning storm outside and it hits your antenna, that current doesn't come inside your house, fry your radio, and catch your house on fire. So but it's not that complicated to do it. A few years back, I switched to a vertical antenna, which I will show you a picture of it. It's in the side yard of my house. It's pretty neat. It's a 43-foot vertical antenna. It has what they call above ground radials. So there's elements that come off the bottom, project out. Those are called radials, and you can either bury wires in the ground, and that's, you know, a little more labor intensive, or you can use these above ground radio. I don't think this antenna looks so bad, so when I put it up, you know, I got to keep my wife happy. She's not a ham radio operator. She didn't want some big old tower in our backyard. I understand that. We live in a rural area. I have a log home, a lot of beautiful landscaping and trees, and not everybody likes to see a big giant ham radio tower. So what do they say? Happy wife, happy life. So I put this one up, and I think I actually spent some time positioning it on the side of my house so that it would work. Obviously, it wasn't too close to the spruce trees that I've planted, and at the same time my wife would get the great view that she likes to have out the bedroom window from her side of the bed without having to stare right at my ham radio antenna. So I kind of positioned it and set it up like that. We've become used to it now, and she's fine with it. So it's kind of cool. Birds actually land on the little above ground radials, and they're high enough off the ground that if I need to mow the lawn, I can get the tractor under there. So when I put that antenna, and the one to the right, so when Laura looks out, she really doesn't look right at it. I know it looks like she would, but she doesn't. And the cable is actually buried, and then it just comes up out of the ground over here, and then I just put it in a piece of PVC water pipe. It goes up. So in that box there's a rod that's a ground, and in that box is the mechanisms called polyphasers that protect it from a lightning strike. And then it goes all the way up to the top. And I drilled a hole just under the gable vent, if you can see that, and then it runs across the attic and into the office. So when we go up in the office, I'll take another picture, but these are the above ground radios I was talking about. And there's the antenna. I think you can see it. So it works nice. As you can see, there's trees here. I planted these trees probably 20 years ago. This is kind of a view of my backyard. As I said before, we live on cell phones. My simple setup in my office. This is my video computer station. And then over here I've got the another workstation with a laptop. But this is my ham radio setup. It's very simple. We've got the big boat anchor, the Yaesu FT990, the 450D. So this 450D, I don't have the power on it right now. It's a more modern radio. It's going to have more filtering, a power supply, and on top of the power supply is another radio. This is a 2 meter. I believe it puts out about 60 watts. On the wall here you can see the switch. There's the coaxial cable coming off the 2 meter. A switch, turn it on, a switch for the HF or high frequency, and then they both go out up into the ceiling. They travel across my attic and go down where I showed you where the antenna were. The antenna for the 2 meter radio right here is actually inside the attic. The signal will travel as long as you don't have a metal roof. And there's the desk mic. You can see what that looks like. But you can also use what's called a hand mic. Here's a hand mic right here. Just a regular microphone. This particular microphone, it's the one for the 2 meter. and you can do programming on the mic. So yeah, it kind of looks intimidating sometimes. Here's another handheld radio, a small one that I have. Great little radio. This radio does 2 meter and 440. So yeah, it's a very simple setup. Really all you need is these are speakers, so an external speaker just to make the sound better. These are very inexpensive speakers. They're just little bookshelf speakers. I think I bought them off Facebook, $10 a piece or something. One's hooked to the 2 meter, one's hooked to the HF. You can't meet a nicer group of people in ham radio. I've made so many friends, and if you want to see what these radios look at, like just like the cars, you talk about the big three, Ford, Chrysler, and GM. Well, it used to be, maybe it's different now, but it was Yaesu, ICOM, and Kenwood. Same Kenwood that makes the stereo equipment. They make ham radios, some nice ones too. So Yaesu, ICOM, and Kenwood. Look on Facebook Marketplace. You'll see radios for sale. Look on eBay. You'll see the equipment. Even if you don't buy anything on eBay, you can learn a lot by just looking at the equipment. And there's going to be some real old stuff. You might want to stay away from that when you're starting out, unless you have the ability in the electronics background to fix the stuff. But and then go for it. So with that, I'm gonna, like I said, I'll show you some of the stuff, and you can see what it's like. I'm glad you came and looked at this video. I'm a new YouTuber right now, so I'm having fun, and I did this video specifically because I had somebody say, show us the ham radio, and it's one of those hobbies. It's kind of cool. You can do it. So now that I've done this video, I'm going to probably play with the ham radio for a little bit. Now that it's winter time and I'm inside the house, and I've got a little time off right now. I'm actually on my Christmas vacation, so I got 2 weeks off as a school bus driver, so I have to go back January the 6th. And so I thought I would pop this video out so you guys could see it, because I had a comment on my first video that said show us the ham radio, so I wanted to show it to you. And then I'm gonna leave you with a funny story, because I love to I just like humor. It's fun. Gotta have humor and everything. So I mentioned on the one video that I made about making the cookies, I have 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son, and my youngest daughter's a grown woman now. She's 35 years old, and she's not married, but when she was younger, being her dad, I said, hey, you want to do something with me? I'm gonna go to a ham fest. And my daughter Caroline, she knows I like to cook, and she's thinking it's got something to do with like honey baked hams, and I'm like, no, a ham fest, if you're a ham radio operator, is like a swap meet, and they are all over, winter and summer. You can find them if you look on ARRL website. They will list all the ham fests that the local ham radio clubs have, and usually there's a small admission fee, and it's fun. It's all this equipment and things that they sell, the equipment, new, used. A lot of the hams make their own gear, accessories and things for the radio, and then they sell radios, and you can go there. And I thought it'd be fun for my daughter and I to go together, and it happened to be near where she lived, in her apartment. And I said, the bonus is you're not dating anybody right now. Maybe you can meet some cool young guy. He's probably going to be a nerd, a ham radio guy, but nerds are good. And and so she said, yeah, that'd be great. And I said, well, go to the ham fest. it's near where you live, and then after that we can go out for breakfast and have a good time. So it was funny because when we went there, all it was all older guys. And when I say older guys, the average age, it's around 70 years old. So there are a lot of older guys, and as these older guys peel off and pass away, there aren't as many new guys coming in. Now, I do know that a lot of the people that are into prepping want to get into this because it's something that if the grid goes down and the world is all in upheaval, ham radio will still be around. And that's true. But if you're going to do it, you got to get your license, and you're going to have to invest some time, learn about it, purchase some equipment, and get knowledgeable, because it's not one of these things you can't just, you'll see these radios, they're not overly complicated, but it's not just like a little walkie-talkie. It's a little more than that. So, and that's what makes it fun. It's all those little knobs and dials. You can be the mad professor and get on and talk to someone from around the world. But anyways, the Hamfest story was funny because Caroline thought it was at first that it was a place where you go and you buy like smoked hams or something, and then when I told her, and then I said, no, I want you to go so you can meet some young guy. He'll be good, cool. He'll probably have a good job because he can afford to buy a ham radio, and he'll be a smart little nerd. And then, but we met a bunch of older men, and of course they were super nice to Caroline. She's cute and she's got a great personality, and they were like, hey young lady, are you thinking about becoming a ham radio operator? And she goes, no, I'm just here with my dad, So it was kind of fun. She had a good time. We had a great breakfast, and Whiskey 8 Juliet. This is Whiskey 8 Juliet Charlie Quebec.
These guys got it. Even on my little weak signal that I really haven't horizontal, even on my little weak signal, these guys kind of had the explanation that, that's my
So guys, we got someone on here. Looks like a group of guys talking, and the guy's real close to where I live, so I'm going to try to talk to him here so you can hear.
He sent me the antenna, and then they started talking to me just on the.
So I looked him up on the computer, and he's real close to me, so this will be kind of fun. We'll see how close he is.
I rapidly went from 0 to 100, and then I got the antenna, and then I got the amplifier, and then everybody was, and from way back then, about 25 years ago, everybody was, well, why are you so loud? I'm like, wait a second, you guys were the one that made me loud, and now you guys are saying, why am I so loud? And it's happening even up until yesterday. Hey, Terry? What's up,
Whiskey 8 Juliet.
Juliet. Hey, I hear you calling me. This is Whiskey 8 Juliet.
Yeah, Tim, this is Whiskey 8 Juliet Charlie Quebec over here in Lapeer.
Okay, WHACQ, is that right?
You got it. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Where are you at in Lapeer?
Well, I'm actually in Hadley. I'm over on Pratt Road. You know where that is?
Oh, yeah, I grew up in Lapeer, actually.
What do you do in Lapeer?
Well, I'm in Grand Blanc now, but I grew up in Lapeer.
Okay. I'm a school bus driver for Goodrich Schools.
All right. Well, let's see. Your name is John, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's see who else is hearing you, John. You just bumped into a bunch of guys out here rank showing, and we'll say hello to you. Who's hearing John? I can say hello. Hello, John. Hello, John. KSBUR. Flint. Whiskey 8 Juliet Charlie Quebec. Whiskey Sugar 8 November.
Whiskey Sugar 8 November. Yeah, I heard you. Where are you from?
I'm about 55 miles south of Toledo, a little village that has the name of Cary. Charlie Alpha Romeo Echo Yankee, over.
Got it. You're sounding good. 5'9".
Yeah, you're 59 coming in here. Working okay, no problem there. Let me get out of the way and let one of the boys in. Okay, whiskey sugar.
So how many people do you have in your group here?
About 100.
Oh my gosh, that's a great big net then, eh?
No, I'm just kidding. We don't have 100. I'm just kidding. No, you came up on your last two transmissions. My name is Terry, Tango Echo Romeo Yankee. My call is Kilo Charlie 8 Quebec X-Ray Delta, and I'm in Columbus, Ohio. How are you, Copy?
I'm good, Terry. That was Terry, correct?
Yeah, Terry. Tango Echo Romeo Yankee. Terry.
Yep, you're a 5'9". Looks like we got a lot of static tonight, eh, guys?
Yes, there is a lot of static everywhere, so yeah.
So I've actually been out of not using the radio for quite a few years, and I'm getting ready to start a YouTube channel, so I'm actually filming this right now, this transmission, to try to make a video so I can tell people about ham radio.
Okay, that one was a little rough on me, my friends, but Tim, you wouldn't believe when you guys said that, like, I am the boy here, I thought you were saying, I am up here. Where are you up here?
Look here, it's the city, Lapeer. We're both from the same town.
Roger. Okay, there's another station between Bill, myself, and a young man that wanted to say good afternoon. Go ahead, station.
Well, he's next county over. I'm over here in Flint, name here is like Charlie Lima Alpha Yankee. I work in Inlay City, so I'm very familiar with Lapeer.
So could you hear him good enough, Clay?
Yeah, I can hear him. He's only about a 3S unit, but I can hear him.
Yeah, I'm actually in small town Hadley, so Hadley Township, which is Lapeer mailing, but Hadley. It's got one intersection.
Yeah, I know where Hadley's at. I know where the fire department is too.
Yep, I probably live maybe 2 miles from downtown Hadley.
What do you think? Yeah, I drive through there every once in a while when it's
one interview running.
I'm the engineer for 96.7, which is on the tower there in out there in Goodrich, the big 1,000-foot stick.
Oh, is that the tower that's down by, is that Ortonville?
Boy, the static just took you out. What was that?
You said that tower 96.7. Where is their tower located?
Tim, can you make out what he's saying? The static's really getting bad here.
He wants to know where that tower is located.
It's on Kip Road. It's on Kip Road, approximately a mile and a half to a mile and 3/4 east of M15. The former Channel 28 tower.
Yep, I think I can see the lights when I look from my yard back.
Yeah, I know you can see the tower from Hadley after dark. Might not be able to see it during the day, but yeah, you can see those lights from Flint. You can see them from Lapeer. And if you're not shielded by some trees, you'll be able to see them from Hadley.
Yeah, I live right on Pratt Road, just about halfway between M24 and M15. Like I told the other guy, I think it was Tim, I drive a school bus for Goodrich Schools.
Okay, on the school bus there. You're getting really hard to copy. I've had to tweak all my filters here, and you're right at the edge of, and I get a static crash and it takes you out. But I'll let you carry on. Thanks for the relay there, Tim. Can't fit you on.
All right, John, one more question before we run here. Tell us about your station. What is your transceiver, tower, and antenna?
My transceiver is a Yaesu FT990, old boat anchor. I'm running 100 watts, and I have a 43-foot vertical antenna with above ground radials. It's a 0.5 antenna. QSL?
All right, I got the Yaesu radio, 100 watts, and a vertical antenna, 43 foot with the radials. Got it. All right. Well, a lot of the guys are having trouble copying you. I'm glad you found us. We're out here every night. And if you want to hang out, you certainly can. We'll keep it moving a little bit, all right?
Okay, Tim. Hey, do me a favor. Say hi to the people on YouTube here because, like I said, I'm recording now. Just give them a shout and tell them why they should join, become ham radio operators.
All right. Well, ham radio is the greatest hobby in the world. Meet all kinds of interesting people, learn all sorts of interesting technology, geography. There's no downside to amateur radio. That would be my 2 cents on that.
Sounds good, Tim. All right, I'm going to let you guys carry on. WHJJJ, nice talking to you and the rest of the guys in the group. This is Whiskey 8 Juliet Charlie Quebec. I'm going to go on the side here and listen and play with my video camera. 73.
Thanks for stopping by. Come on back when you can. WHJJ.
Juliet Charlie Quebec. Good deal. Yeah, John, that's what's going to be my next question. Yeah, you were fluctuating here into Columbus, Ohio, John, but good enough coffee, like we always say. Had it been an emergency, you would have been, so yeah, like Tim says, stop by anytime, my friend. We're here every night, wonder.
Thank you, sir. 73.
All right, John, good to catch up with you. Glad you stopped by. You're welcome to stop by often. And I'd like to say Happy New Year to you, partner, from Whiskey Sugar 8 November.
Tim, I'm going to have to send you a postcard.
A postcard.
Yeah, for the MVP.
So there you go, guys. That was a group of guys at 3.850. This is what's cool about this. This is 80 meters is the band, and I just happened to get a real good signal. We have a lot of static on the radio tonight, and I wanted to just talk to somebody and show you guys how easy it is. So it's a group of guys that are talking, and I basically threw my call sign out. They invited me into their conversation. We talked to quite a few guys here. One of the fellas is quite close to where I am. Another guy's down in Ohio. So they're kind of scattered all over the place. So that's kind of what ham radio is all about. You can just sit off to the side and listen if you want to do it, or you can jump in the conversation. You can see how friendly these guys are, and they're having a good time. So the other thing that's neat about it is that I can actually, I'll show you, look up. Here's the guy that I was talking to, Tim, that lives near me. So you can actually see his information and everything about him. There's a program called QST on the internet. Excuse me here while we're getting our camera set up. There's a program called QST on the internet, and you can actually, once you hear someone's call sign, you can just look them up, go on the computer, gives you all the information, tells them what level of license they have. It actually shows a map of where they're located, gives you the exact miles, how far away they are from you, and the bearing, compass bearing. So if you have a rotatable antenna with a beam, you can turn it and point it towards their house. So if you're a ham radio operator and you want privacy, you don't want everybody to know your name and address and everything else, you probably shouldn't be a ham radio operator. The FCC regulations say that you have to have a hard address, you can't have a post office box, not to get your license, and all that has to be disclosed in order to have a license. So if a ham operator starts operating in an illegal way, maybe using profanity or too much power or interfering with something, they know where to find you. But it's never a problem. As you can see, the hams are a great group of people, and it's fun. When I signed off, and again, like I told him, I haven't been on the radio in quite a long time, so it's kind of like you got kind of get warmed up a little bit here. They invited me back. They just wanted to let me know that they're at this 3850 frequency almost every night, so it means all I got to do is take the radio and dial it to that frequency, and if I hear those guys, start writing down. You see I got a piece of paper here, and I've started writing down their call signs, going on this program, looking them up, and then finally I called out to one of them, and yeah, that's how it is. So that's the neat part. You can it's laid back. The one guy said that he was the operating engineer for 96.7, which is a radio station nearby, which is kind of cool. And I told him, as I'm a school bus driver, these guys know the school district that I work for and everything else. So again, it's a very open hobby. You're going to meet a lot of people on it, and I hope you got an insight on what this is like. And the neat part about it is, here I'm using this older radio that I paid about $500 for, and it works great. I mean, I'm not running
Emergency 51 quad 10.
a bunch of power or anything, and it functions just fine. And yes, there's a lot of static tonight. That's just the conditions. There's probably a bunch of rainstorms south of us, which is causing all the static. So yeah, kind of neat. I'll get the other radio hooked up, the 450D, which is another Yaesu. Smaller one's got more filters, or we'll do it on another night when there's not so much static. So yes, electrical lightning storms affects this. They're on different frequencies. It might be a little bit better, but I kind of checked around tonight, and it seems pretty staticky. But we got through. We made our transmission. They could understand me. It worked great. Like I say, it's kind of neat to be able to take an old radio like this, just turn it on, flip a couple of switches, and I probably haven't been on the radio in a year, and we're up and running and we're going. So probably gonna do a little more of it this year. So anyways, we'll flip back to the video and I'll talk to you soon. So here's something cool. So I went on the computer to look up one of the guys that I was talking to, a WS8N. And when I looked on there, I saw it says the 3850 group that met at the 2024 Dayton Hamfest. So remember we talked about a Hamfest. There's one down in Ohio that's very big, down at Dayton, Ohio. It's the big one. And these are some of the guys that I was talking to just a minute ago here. And you can see they've got their call signs and everything. So that's kind of cool, and that's what's neat about this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. If you have questions about the ham radio, just put it in the comments. I'd be more than glad to answer any questions. I was telling my wife the other day that I think that down the road, as I get more experienced with YouTube, I think I'm going to do a live stream, and maybe people will ask me about the ham radio. I like technical things, so one of the other hobbies I do is metal detecting. Another fun thing, and a lot of ham radio operators do metal detecting, so that's kind of cool. So anyways, thanks very much for coming to my channel and watching it. If you want to see more, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I'll take that as a compliment. Give me a like if you like the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Adios.